This is a video to chronicle the extremely short life of the mmorpg known as Oath, a free-to-play open-world action combat MMO built by ReadyUp Studios in Unreal Engine 4. A game that raised over $100,000 from the public in a very short amount of time, caused the company to go bankrupt and disband, promised a playable client for backers in a few months, but never delivered on anything. Their forum is now a wasteland of spam text posts, their Discord completely closed to the public, and not a single screenshot or video of the game has been shared since October of 2019. Publicly, no one ever knew who the people involved with the game were, what their qualifications are, or where the money went. This is one of the mysterious projects that appeared on the platform of Kickstarter, raised money in hopes, only to find themselves embroiled in drama, eventual legal threats against contractors, defamation suit threats against YouTubers, and since then, absolute deafening silence. I'll be giving you the facts here, as well as a few speculations and opinions where the facts are lacking. So let us start at the very beginning, or at least the beginning of what the public would know at the time. April 2nd, 2019, Kickstarter, the place where these videos usually begin. Oath appears, a flashy trailer is shown, and a goal is set. 35,000 United States dollars to bring an MMORPG to life. ReadyUp Studios made the claim that they had initial investment for the project and needed very little working capital to get the game to a closed beta state mere months from the current date. Consistently at this time, the claims were made that Oath was really close to being ready for public consumption. A couple of months was the time frame given for a playable game for backers of the correct alpha packages, which of course started at $500 for Alpha 1 access, $300 for Alpha 2 access, and $100 for Beta 1 access. Contextually, it is particularly important to remind you that in April of 2019, we'd already seen the golden era of Kickstarter MMORPGs receiving funding, such as Star Citizen, Chronicles of Valyria, Camelot Unchained, and Crowfall, to name a few. To this date, some of the titles had been in testing for years, but nothing was close to launch, and sentiment for crowdfunding projects of this scale was at an all-time low. Oath was open at the time about the state of the game, claiming everything in the trailer was temporary, which makes complete sense as everything in the trailer was purchased from the Unreal Engine Asset Store. Little, if any, original work was shown at this stage. Most of what we had seen was entirely for show and not indicative of a real game project, essentially just assets thrown together for the trailer. After opening the Kickstarter, Oath had been picked up by some of the MMORPG news websites, such as Massively OP and mmorpg.com. But they'd rarely failed to pick up any steam in terms of clicks, and more importantly, funding. April 16th, 2019. Half the campaign had already ticked by, and the project had not even raised $10,000 yet. 16 days remaining to raise another $27,000. All of that would change in a very short period of time. Introducing the Lazy Peon, probably the largest MMORPG specific YouTube channel around, and he picked up on the story, he picked up on the game and made a video. Within 24 hours, they had doubled their initial funds raised, and within 4 days of the video going live, the project was completely funded. The $35,000 goal had been achieved. 13 or so days from April 16th, since the video had launched, the project would climb to $67,749. Now, I just want to clarify that I do not think Lazy Peon did anything wrong by covering the game. Content creators in this space, what we do is cover new MMOs that appear. At no point during the video did he direct people to go and fund the game, tell them to go fund it, or that it was a good idea. He just showed it existed, talked about what was in the game trailer, and then people obviously went from that and funded the game. At this time, ReadyUp Studios would start down the path of many studios before them, funding on their own website, away from Kickstarter fees and minimum funding requirements. Already, the rumours were starting to circulate. ReadyUp's Ethan had taken to the Discord server with a message for the community regarding, quote, false information about the developers being sent in private messages to other Discord users. Now, this is probably a good time to take a break from the timeline and outline what we knew about these developers. We knew literally nothing, not a single person's face or real name, no one's LinkedIn, employment history, or experience. What we had were two consistent names in the Discord server who represented ReadyUp, Ethan and Steven. June 10th, 2019, just over a month from when the Kickstarter had ended and they doubled their initial goal, Oath's team had shown nothing new of substance, just a few images of concept art and regular communication about the awesome things that would soon follow. This date, June 10th, marks not only the first major progress from the studio, but also the beginning of the end for said studio. The announcement was made in Discord. We have hired an independent studio, as well as tagging a now revoked role in the server known as OceanSpark. OceanSpark was a United Kingdom-based development team consisting of a handful of employees brought on to assist in 3D art, visual effects, and animations. I, of course, am referring to OceanSpark in the past tense since the studio was forced to shut down entirely after being in business with ReadyUp for less than 4 months. OceanSpark were now active in the server, interacting with users, getting involved as best as they could. Now after this, we skip forward a few months, as development didn't really amount to anything public. We had no new videos, no new gameplay footage to speak of, and no date on player involvement. On September 19th, 4 months post Kickstarter success, and already more than twice over the deadline for alpha testing, Stephen would post on Discord claiming the first ever playthrough video would be live sometime in October. Alongside this was one of the seldomly shown screenshots of the game, a simple dock featuring a desert backdrop. October 16th, a gif is posted by Stephen, along with an acknowledgement of neglect in sharing footage of the game, showing a brief amount of gameplay and another reference to the playthrough video said to be releasing at the end of the month. Unfortunately, this was the last time we would ever see any footage of the Oath game. The developers would continue to post, but things were about to get real crazy, real quick. October 17th, 2019, a video is published by YouTuber Cry. The title, The Truth About Oath, Kickstarter mmorpg. A 55-minute long video including an interview with the previously hired OceanSpark developers and an accompanying 43-page Google Drive document detailing ReadyUp's sins. The document was unfortunately scrubbed from the internet due to legal threats and employment complications, but luckily Cry's video is still up to this day and has many of the pages shown on screen. The allegations in the video were serious, the largest of which that there was no game. The only work that had ever been done was apparently OceanSpark's. The developers were purposefully vague in every interaction between the companies. They didn't give access to the game files in any way. They didn't have mock-ups, specifications, design briefs, or even rough outlines for any work they required, and didn't seem to know what they were doing. There was nothing to go on in terms of what the world would look like, the height of the characters, literally nothing to help them in designing the environments that they were tasked with. The allegation that brought this story to light, though, was that of non-payment. OceanSpark was to be paid £4,000 per month for their work, a relatively small sum of money for a 4 to 5 developer studio working full-time on a project, but in the grand scheme of things, about 10% of the Kickstarter funds per month. OceanSpark had been working for free for 5 weeks, as ReadyUp were refusing payment, although OceanSpark didn't know that they were refusing payment. They can be seen here letting Stephen know that an invoice had been sent. Stephen would acknowledge it and claim to be sending payment later that same day, as well as asking for more work to be done in the meantime. He then is asked again a full 10 days later if the payment was being sent, and he responds stating that Ethan should have already sent the payment and he would follow up with him to see what had happened. This is important to note. For over 5 weeks, OceanSpark continued to work on Oath without receiving any payment, a small independent studio that needed this money to live. But ReadyUp seemingly never intended to pay them, and in early October would inform the OceanSpark team about an error that had been made which had caused an internal investigation, resulting in them withholding payment. Apparently ReadyUp noticed this over a month prior and intended to withhold that payment the entire time, but would lie to the team for the entire period, telling them excuses like Ethan is sick, Ethan has missed a flight, Ethan has sent the payment, but they would still continue to ask them to do more work. Eventually, enough was enough. A small independent studio, they needed this money to operate. OceanSpark put together a 43-page Google Drive document detailing these interactions, including dozens of screenshots of communication. A lack of professionalism, a lack of direction, and general competence. They shared this with the Oath community, YouTubers, and news websites, though it didn't get very much traction until Cry picked this up on his channel and gave it the platform required to be taken seriously. After this it all came to light, ReadyUp of course took to their website with an in-depth response. They would refute all claims, providing their own proof to counter what OceanSpark had said. Due to the original documents not being available and neither side providing the complete start-to-finish conversation logs, it's hard to piece together everything in a coherent story, especially the main sticking point between the two studios, which was over a blade of grass, literally. As part of the agreement between these two studios, OceanSpark would be tasked with making a grass asset to include in the game world. This is what started everything. OceanSpark claims that they used a store asset they already owned for reference, and when uploading the files to ReadyUp, they uploaded part of that reference file by mistake, which caused a flag on the system. They claim that this was an honest mistake, and ReadyUp claims it was an attempt at fraud. OceanSpark's side of the story was simple. We did what most coders or artists do. We used someone else's work that we already owned as a reference point and just forgot to remove said reference point before pushing the work to Oath for approval. They of course own up to it, that it was a very silly mistake, but the mistake was entirely theirs, but it would take 30 seconds to amend if they knew the mistake had been made. ReadyUp of course claimed this was a breach of contract and they would not be paying the studio, as they was paying them for original work and not to buy Unreal Store assets and sell them as originals. This page on the ReadyUp website is still live, you can go check to this date. Despite a 4-week investigation, they didn't find a single additional asset that was apparently stolen or purchased from the store, which means they threw away this working relationship and refused to pay for multiple months of work due to a blade of grass and a single 30-second mistake. You also can't see a single communication that they published that would back up any claims of OceanSpark being informed of the non-payment, but these excuses would by and large be accepted by the Oath community, as they still wanted to believe that this game was real. Now this is the part where ReadyUp loses all credibility for most people who followed this whole story. As a small business owner, you have a working relationship with another small business owner for a handful of months. They're doing solid work for you that you to this stage are very happy with. You discover an irregularity, and your immediate reaction is not to confront the team and find out if it was a mistake, but to withhold payment for weeks, lie to them while withholding said payment, and allow them to continue doing work for you during that time. They are here in black and white telling OceanSpark to continue working. Meanwhile, in their own words on their website, they were investigating all the work thus far. This of course went down as most internet dramas go down. The first to publish gets everyone on their side apart from the hardcore fans, and then the response gets people to flip back to the side of the studio, and then everyone goes their separate routes and believes what they want to believe. ReadyUp were painting the narrative that OceanSpark were caught attempting to sell store assets as a flip, something against Unreal Engine's terms of service. But this is where it starts to get even worse. They had a section dedicated to Cry, the YouTuber who gave the platform to OceanSpark and their allegations. In this section, they officially name Cry by his real identity, something he does not put out on the internet, and threatened him with a defamation lawsuit due to the damages caused by his actions. At this time, most people agreed that this was a petty bully tactic. Of course, to date, nothing has came from this. No legal documents fired. Cry left the video up. OceanSpark unfortunately had to close their company and move on to go work for other businesses due to not having the money to pay for the employees. And they removed the document partly due to said legal threats, partly due to the harassment from the Oath fans, and most importantly due to, again, having to find new jobs and having this drama hanging over their heads. But of course it did not end there. They were not satisfied with threats of legal action. They would also falsely abuse the DMCA takedown request system of YouTube. To illustrate how severe this is, if YouTube were to side with ReadyUp and issue the DMCA, it is a permanent mark on the creator's account. If you accrue 3 of these marks, your account is permanently terminated, meaning that this person's career would be completely ruined. A DMCA is a legal document. You sign it under the penalty of perjury. In the DMCA, they claim that due to Cry showing grass assets that they own, which they didn't pay for by the way, he's infringing their copyright, which if upheld would mean showing any gameplay footage on a YouTube video would be classed as copyright infringement. YouTube luckily told him this was insufficient, which he didn't take all too well, continuing to argue that the video wronged him specifically due to, and I quote, losing the curiosity and surprise factor when we upload our game trailer. Bear in mind, he also lies in the DMCA request to make it seem more severe, stating this video was on track to be the channel's most viewed video, which is absolutely false. After all the drama had settled and people had stopped speaking about it on both sides, it was an extremely easy solution to see who was right and who was wrong. Time is always the proof you require. If OceanSpark was wrong, time would pass and ReadyUp would release this game. If OceanSpark was right, the game would never be released. ReadyUp posted on Discord a total of 2 more times ever. Once on the 30th of October 2019, claiming the new studio they had working for them, who had never been named publicly, had asked to be kept secret due to harassment. that the drama had caused their December alpha to potentially be delayed, and that previews would be shown using old art studio work coming in November. Following this, nothing was shown or announced on the Discord, the Reddit, the Kickstarter, the forum, or the Twitter until the 2nd of January 2020. ReadyUp stated, "We are still here, we are still working on the game, and of course, we are censoring the community. All channels for discussion would be restricted to backers only. The store page would be removed so you could no longer buy access to be able to see said discussions, and that the game would still be coming soon." Since then, there has not been a single public show of work, or even an announcement from Steven or Ethan, who are still in the Discord. It has been 20 months since they were supposed to show a gameplay video, 24 months since they were supposed to have a playable alpha. I contacted Steven before starting the work on this video, asking if they were going to announce the project closure, and he responded stating that they were still working on the game. The official story ends here, but this is where the interesting part starts. At the beginning of this video, I said let's start at what was publicly known, but there was more behind the scenes that, if known, would have likely raised enough red flags to see the project as one to avoid at all costs. I did my usual digging into the project and the people involved as soon as they started to threaten cry with a lawsuit, and what I discovered was that the people behind ReadyUp were known in another community, the Fiesta Online private server community. These people had a reputation for scamming that user base, putting up servers for a very short period of time, taking in thousands to tens of thousands of donations for perks and items, only to close the server and move on. I even found old posts from an account known as Spoon, talking about a new game that they were developing as a spiritual successor to Fiesta Online, which would eventually be called Oath. The PayPal account used for ReadyUp was also officially registered and titled Extrinsic Studios, a name that again links these so-called developers back to this Fiesta Online community where they built that notoriety. I discovered the real-life identities of these people, of which I obviously will not share, and I also found that most of this team had moved on from ReadyUp and were back working their tricks in the Fiesta community, even as recent as 2021, active in Discord servers for new projects in that scene. I've had dozens of conversations off the record with people who were very close to this group who worked with them, all backing up these discoveries. I cannot say that Oath was an outright scam. I think reading between the lines, it was a group of people who thought they could just throw together some assets, put together a trailer, get some seed money from people, and then try to run a business. They ran into some complications along the way, some of them vanished to greener pastures, and most people confirmed to me that at least one of the brothers involved in this project, and yes, there was brothers involved, was still adamant he would deliver Oath and had no intention of running away with the money. He is apparently still working on this project, though that does not change the fact that they have done, shown, and said nothing for over a year, and one person cannot deliver on this MMORPG. They eventually raised over $100,000 from Kickstarter and website funding, another project that started on Kickstarter and ended with people losing money, with nothing to show for it except for this video and a convoluted web of confusion and lies. I'm not sure if we have heard the last of Oath, but after no public announcement for so long, I figured it was time to chronicle the story of this one. These videos are a pain to put together, especially with half the info being deleted, and you're working from memory to dig up what is left, so I hope it was worth it. Leave me a comment and like to let me know you want to see more of these videos in the future. Check out my Chronicles of Illyria deep dive if you want to see $8 million vanish, and links for my socials in the video description. I have Twitch, Patreon, Twitter and Discord. Remember, most importantly, subscribe to my channel. It's free, takes you 2 seconds, and I'm worth it. Thank you very much for watching, appreciate you all, stay safe out there, and I will see you on the next one. We out. Peace.